Okay.
We're recording.
Oh, hey guys, what's going on? I have today with me author, researcher, educator, and 3-time Facebook offender, Jeanice Barcelo. Jeanice is hardcore. She goes hard, man. She gets kicked off. She doesn't care. She will say what she wants to say and not really give a F about what people think. So anyway, I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. I know that you have a new book out, right?
Yeah.
This is your second book?
It's my second book. My first book is about birth trauma. It's called Birth Trauma and the Dark Side of Modern Medicine. And we've done a show about that book, I think, in the past. Mm-hmm. My second book is called The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound. And that book took me very deep into the topic of radiation, because I did not know that ultrasound is radiation. And they've been lying to us about that. But just like all of our wireless devices are emitting enormous amounts of radiation, so too ultrasonic devices are emitting very serious levels of radiation. With ultrasound, it's both electromagnetic and acoustic radiation. So you've got waves that are horizontal and vertical coming in at the same time, hammering cells. It's very, very dangerous.
You know, I've been focused a lot on vaccines and the medical industry, and I really know that I need to have a better understanding of radiation, and I know a little bit about it, but now, especially with what's going on with the coronavirus hoax, I feel that it's time to start delving deeper, and I think it has opened up a larger conversation about 5G. Like, and more people are starting to talk about it. So what do you know about, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with the radiation? I'll leave it up to you.
I want to start by saying that it's very important. This is probably the most important topic that we could be focusing on right now. We have a very large population of damaged children. And my research is very clear, and I'm going to be writing a book, and half of it's already written, about the ultrasound autism connection. So even though it's absolutely certain that vaccines are throwing children over the edge into autism, it's also very clear that ultrasound and the exposure to wireless energies in the womb is laying the groundwork for autism, ADHD, all of these neurological, even asthma, all of these problems that children are experiencing. The foundation for this is what's happening to them in the womb. And then they come in with the vaccines. Right now what they're doing is pairing it up, right? So they got the pregnant mom, let's expose you to ultrasound and vaccines. And we're going to do maximum damage to that baby before you even get it out of your womb. With any luck at all, the baby will be dead. And this is what's happening quite a bit. There's so many babies dying in the womb from this combination, from this assault. And the medical establishment, of course, is a major contributor to these deaths and this damage to the children. But understanding radiation, understanding the impact of what we're doing to our children by using wireless devices and by acquiescing to medical protocols that are damaging is essential if we're going to have a bloodline that survives. It's not looking good, Verstein. I got to tell you. Based on what this radiation does to the children's genetics, to their reproductive capacities, to their brain, it's very, very serious what we've already.
So it can be passed on via generational, it like unravels the DNA. So maybe somebody that has minimal damage, if they're not totally damaged, but if they like procreate with somebody else, they can pass this on to their child.
Once a child has genetic damage, that genetic that genetic defect is passed on. Many of these children will not be able to reproduce. They'll be their reproductive system will be completely defunct. Ultrasound stops sperm production. Let me explain how serious this is.
Okay.
2 15-minute blasts to the adult male scrotum, and you have a minimum of 6 months infertility. And the infertility can be permanent. Okay? So in addition to that, they're using ultrasound to create vasectomy. Because ultrasonic irradiation heats things, what it can do is it can literally cause damage to the vas deferens of adult men through the heating process and through the cavitation process. And then the skin around the vas deferens coagulates, and the sperm can't pass through the vas deferens to the penis. So they are using ultrasound as a form of vasectomy, to deliberately cause vasectomy, and also as a form of male contraception. Okay?
Yeah.
And they've been telling us all along that this is totally safe, but if this technology can damage male reproductive organs at that level, what do we suppose is happening to the developing ovaries and testes of children in the womb when they're exposed to this technology?
Yeah.
And this is the thing about radiation too, is that you see, you may not see the damage when the baby's born. It's the type of damage that you won't know your kid is infertile until they become 20 or whatever age they start having sex and wanting to reproduce. And it's at that age that they discover they can't create life. And and they're not going to tie it back to what happened to them in the womb, the exposure to the radiation, right?
It's a slow kill. Even a lot of the stuff with the vaccines, like people they're not realizing a lot of the autoimmune stuff that they have is tied back to that, because it happens slowly.
Yeah.
Or they just don't, because it doesn't happen, they don't notice the effects immediately. They don't tie it to that,
That's it. That's it. That's how they get away with it.
Yeah. And
delayed effect.
And it's like, one of my friends, her child is autistic. I'm not going to say, but you know who she is.
Yeah.
And when she was, she did, before she woke up to a lot about the radiation and stuff, she did have an ultrasound, and she was able to feel him for a while, like moving and stuff. And he was she had an ultrasound, and she was like, that day when she came home from the hospital, she didn't feel him moving, and she was like freaking out. She's like, something's wrong, something's different,
Yep.
And then later, now she ties it back to that though, because at the time she just wasn't thinking, and she thought that maybe she was just, at the time she's, her husband was like, oh, it's okay, whatever. And she's like, no, maybe, I'm a little paranoid. Maybe it was nothing, but I just had a feeling like something's wrong, something's off. Like he's not moving the way he was. I don't, it's something's off.
Yep.
So a few years later, when he gets his MMR vaccine, he has brain damage, and now he's severely autistic.
Yeah, the brain damage occurs in the womb. You see, the damage to what ultrasound does is multifaceted. So when you get hit with these frequencies, and this goes for all levels of both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, the bones absorb a lot of the radiation. And the bones actually start to expand and contract in response to these alien frequencies, okay? And they heat up. So all the brain matter around the bone is going to be cooked, literally. Then you've got underneath the skull bones that are vibrating out of control and literally heating up. You would not believe the heating effects. These are so extreme, especially in liquid underneath the skull bone.
Oh, the amniotic fluid.
The cerebral spinal fluid, and of course the amniotic fluid, okay? What happens in the liquids is that these bubbles, when you boil water?
I was going to ask that, is it like boiling water?
Bubbles form, okay, and then they explode or implode. Well, that's what happens when you expose the liquids of our body to these frequencies and this radiation. I'll call them radiation emitting frequencies, all right, to put it all together. These bubbles form and they implode, literally, from the radiation force and heat. They implode. And when they implode, they create localized heating as hot as the temperature of the sun. This is documented. This is going on in the cerebral spinal fluid, which is underneath the skull bones, next to the brain matter. The cerebral spinal fluid flows through every ventricle of the entire nervous system. Okay? And we have cavitation happening inside these fluids.
Well, I have a question though. Then how come the baby doesn't die right away if it's
Babies
as hot
do
as?
die.
But then somehow come some don't die right away.
I guess it's going to depend on how long the session lasts, what's actually coming out of the machine, the levels that they're using, what part of the body is being exposed to the ultrasound. It's going to depend on. It's just.
You mean like? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. You mean like sun rays? Because I'm like the sun itself as like, you know, not like the sun in outside, but
Like
just like
8,000 degrees Celsius, as hot as the surface of the temperature at the surface of the sun.
Okay. I mean, it just seems a little bit. I believe that it's hot, and I believe that the boiling occurs, but that degree. I mean, because when I think of like, you can't touch the sun, so how is it that hot inside of the womb, and not even like kill the mom? You know what I mean? Like
It's created in those localized where the bubble is, right? So you just got a speck of that extreme heat, and that may affect the cells that are very close by. And if those cells happen to be brain cells, that's a very serious thing. Of course, all the cells are in danger. So all I can tell you is I was equally surprised to locate this research. In addition, I mean, these implosions create particle collisions at speeds of like 400 miles an hour. Okay, so we're talking about extremely violent activity going on inside the liquids of our bodies when we're exposed to ultrasound. Now, I don't know if wireless frequencies cause that level of cavitation. I think it depends on the microwaves that they're using, but I do know ultrasound does, and it's extremely well documented. And the impacts, you know, pregnant women are told not to get in hot tubs, right? Because it can cause birth defects and central nervous system defects, all manner of problems. And yet they're being exposed to a technology that causes exorbitant levels of heating, especially Doppler, pulsed Doppler fetal heart monitors, okay? Extreme heating that can heat the body several degrees more than it's supposed to be and cause the baby all manner of neurological defects and brain damage and organ damage.
So the heart monitors are Doppler. Could you explain the Doppler radiation?
Well, you know, they use Doppler radar in radar. All right. Basically, what it means is that they're pulsing radiation. They're pulsing these frequencies, very high levels of frequencies at you. And let me give you an example of how these frequencies differ from natural frequencies, because our body typically resonates at frequencies between 3 and 30 hertz. All right. Ultrasound is usually operating between 3 and 9 million hertz. That's prenatal ultrasound. And your wireless devices are operating at 2.4 gigahertz right now. That's 2.4 billion hertz that our bodies are being hit with when they are supposed to be resonating at 3 to 30 hertz. Not to mention, there's other aspects to this that are extremely, extremely violent and harmful. But the thing is, it takes years for the harm to become apparent. So people are not making the connection between what's wrong with them, what's wrong with their children, what's wrong with their pets.
Pets, yeah.
Yes. And what they're being exposed to, which is this radiation, which is these frequencies. These are technologically produced frequencies. They're not natural. And they're based on, they're generated through the destruction of matter. Literally, they blow up atoms. And then they harvest, as the atoms try to frantically put themselves back together, they harvest the energy. The atoms emit radiation from the trauma, and they harvest that, and they recycle it through all these wireless devices. I could go into detail about this and how they create ultrasound, but it's enough to say it's based on the destruction of matter. It's based on trauma. It's based on traumatizing the building blocks of manifest creation and blowing them apart, and then calling it free energy, renewable energy. Because all you got to do is traumatize everything that's in manifest creation, and you can harness the energy from them. They're vampires.
So what we have, you were talking about, it's a basis for autism. So, I don't know if you follow Dr. Humphreys. I followed her. She's
For a while,
doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she talked about, kind of like this. I mean, she's not the only person that talks about, but like this kind of like effect, this like, she's not like dropping the bucket or like the straw that breaks the camel's back. So it seems like, and she did mention ultrasound, and it seems like now that I'm like doing more research, like at first I would be like, oh, vaccines are the first assault, but now that I go back and now that I'm doing more research in it, it seems like ultrasounds are the first assault,
Well, the first is going to be actually prior to the conception of the child. The parent are being exposed to radiation through their wireless devices. So their sperm and egg are likely to have genetic damage. Okay, so a lot of these autistic children will have what's called a de novo genetic mutation. That's the word for new, de novo. And what that means is it's a genetic mutation that's never existed in the family line before, and is showing up for the first time in the child who has the genetic mutation. And de novo mutations are caused by genetic mutations in the sperm or egg of parents, or radiation exposure in early prenatal life. Either way, it's caused by radiation exposure. De novo mutations, the parental sperm and egg are becoming damaged from the radiation exposure from wireless devices and the myriad medical radiation devices that people are letting themselves be exposed to. So we have some serious issues. And when you take the 2.4 gigahertz frequencies that they're using in cell phones, Wi-Fi routers, smart meters, smart TVs, all manner of devices, okay, they know that within 3 generations, those people will not be able to have children. Did you hear what I just said? 3 generations. With each generation, the fertility level will go down. By the 3rd generation, they will not be able to reproduce.
Yeah.
And we're very close now, because these technologies have been out for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And let me say also,
it's just hitting me, and I'm thinking about it. I wanted to ask you. Well, go on, and then I'm making notes. Go.
Okay, so let me say also about the infertility issue, that we're at a place in the United States right now where fertility is the lowest that it has ever been since they started taking measurements in 1909. Male fertility across the world, across the developed world, has dropped 60%. Men today have 60% less sperm than they did in 1970. I mentioned earlier that ultrasound stops sperm production.
Mhm.
Once you expose a child to this technology, even if the child begins to produce sperm again, the quality of the sperm will be in question because of the previous radiation exposure. So whatever sperm they do have may be defective.
So in the developed world, you're saying
Yeah.
60%. Do you
Yeah.
know, have they taken sperm counts in the underdeveloped world?
I don't have the statistics for that, unfortunately.
You know, it's funny though, because I'll get people that would, you know, when I criticize modern medicine or technology, they'll make like witch doctor jokes. Oh, go back to your witch doctor. And I'm just like, you know, they're doing fine. They're living into their hundreds. They're really healthy.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just I'm wonder if I can, I made a note, I wonder if I can find some data on that, because I'm pretty sure that their sperm counts aren't as low because they're not being exposed to all this stuff, you know?
Well, that would be a very important thing to find out, is if they're being exposed to wireless devices, if they've been injected with vaccines, because vaccines are also containing infertility ingredients,
Agents,
you know,
yeah,
like
sure.
polysorbate 2080 and things that will make people.
HCG,
Huh?
yeah, HCG hormones and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
so they're deliberately trying to depopulate the earth. There's no question about this.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And they have pulled it off, you know, because we're at a very serious time where infertility is skyrocketing. And we're not at the third generation of exposure yet. That's going to be the 20-year-olds who have kids.
Yeah,
Like
we're in the middle, right? You're saying that we're in the middle. We're in the middle right now. We're in the middle generation, right?
That's how it seems to me. We're in the middle right now, so infertility has dropped significantly, like extremely.
Yeah.
And this next generation is going to be in deep trouble. And, you know, we have people that are involved in the globalist agenda, like Elon Musk, for example, who's the Tesla satellite man, putting up all these satellites into space and beaming all this radiation at the Earth from the satellites. He came right out and he said, you know, people talk about overpopulation and the dangers of too many people on the Earth, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. In 20 years, we're going to see a population collapse. And he should know.
Right, yeah.
Because he's part of the game, you see? He's part of the plan. And he's not the only one that has said this. In my book, I go into detail about the music industry, people like Madonna, different artists singing songs about how not everybody's coming to the future, not everybody's going to last. You know, people are going to die. It's
that predictive programming stuff. And it's that, you know, it's that, like, the predictive programming, and also it's this transhumanist agenda, you know. And because of that, like, people aren't going to make the connections. Like, when they see 5G, they see all of this quote unquote technology, they think that it's basically progressive and it's progressing us, but it's actually regressing us.
Massive.
You know?
It's killing.
It's killing us. It's killing us. It's regressive. It's regressive, but people see it as, I was just trying to find an opposite for progressive, but they think that we're progressing. They see it as us, you know, oh, it's this technology and it's great. And, you know, you have all of this AI stuff and all of this, you know, we have all of this technology coming in without, you know, talking about the research and without answering all of these essential questions and having these debates that need to be had on this stuff.
Well, you know, the science is readily available for those who want to look at it, about the dangers of this radiation coming from these devices, coming from all the towers, the extreme density, and people are dying. You know, people are dying. I'm one of the people that got very, very sick. I mean, I came really close to death in 2018. And I'm somebody that has focused on my health for 25 years, you know, eating organic, exercising right, making sure I'm grounded, earthing every day, and doing everything I could to take care of my body, using organic skincare products, everything, right? But this technology damn near killed me.
Do you want to talk about that, or
Well,
like that experience?
I can say that I don't know really where to start, but to say that we made the mistake of signing up for solar panels. And once you sign up for solar panels in New York, you immediately get a smart meter on your house. And we didn't know that. That doesn't come in the solar contract. That's a silent little thing that they do.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And the other silent little thing that they do is they put a very powerful Wi-Fi modem next to the smart meter. So both of these devices are sending pulsed microwave radiation into the house 24/7. So every 30, 40 seconds, you're getting hammered. Boom. Just like you do from your iPhone, okay? Every 40 seconds or so, you're going to get a pulse into the red. I have a meter here. I can show you because I'm sitting in a Faraday cage, right? So there's can you see the meter is on right now, but there's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing. But if I step outside, I'm inside. I'm surrounded right now by radiation shielding, literally. Okay. If I stepped outside of this, the meter would go up. And if I put it next to a cell phone, every couple of seconds, it would go up into the red. Pulse, 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 pulse. So people are being jackhammered with pulsed microwaves, literally, which is an attack on the nervous system. So after a while, when you have that, you're going to start not being able to sleep because your system can't relax. It's constantly being jolted into awakening. You're probably going to develop tinnitus, quote unquote tinnitus, because people start to hear the frequencies, many of which are in the ultrasonic range. And people can hear ultrasound and babies can hear it too, despite us being told it's not audible. So those are the first two signs that happened for me. Had really a lot of trouble sleeping. That never happened before. And I developed very severe tinnitus. Okay, then I started getting extreme headaches, extreme pressure in the head. That I never got headaches before either. Then my muscles started to hurt everywhere. All right, then I started getting nauseous and dizzy. And I couldn't, developing sweats, you know, especially if I was sitting with my Wi-Fi laptop. I'm on a wired connection right now. Everything in this house is completely Ethernet connected. So we don't have wireless in this house anymore. No Wi-Fi modem, no smart meter, all of that had to go. So what happens is I went into a full system collapse. I started losing my eyesight. I went deaf in one ear. I couldn't get out of bed. I could not even have the strength to get to the bathroom. Literally, it was so bad and so terrifying. And I didn't understand what was happening to me until somebody on Facebook said to me, "Do you have a smart meter on the house?" And I said, "I don't know." And I had to go and find out. And that took me, you know, as I'm writing the ultrasound book, this happened. I developed
the irony, right? Oh, God.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is that it happened at the very same time I was kicked off of Facebook, and they deleted my blog of 9 years, my Blogspot blog, my YouTube channels were taken down. This could have been a deliberate attack through the smart meter, you see? Yeah. They could have deliberately targeted me at that time. I don't know.
We'll get it. I wanted to ask you about that too, but finish your story. How people can be targeted. Okay, go on.
Well, they could have. The timing was just impeccable in terms of the relationship between this other stuff and my illness. So that's possible. But once you have the devices removed, they can't really target you. They can target you through your phone. They can target you through a smart meter. They can target you through any smart device, your TV, anything. Anything at all that you have in your home is a potential weapon.
Smart. Anything that's
Even,
smart.
Yes, all the smart devices, and even your smoke detectors. If you've got smoke detectors that don't have batteries, they're ultrasonic.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I unplug my smoke detectors anyway, too, because sometimes the batteries, they go off, and it just drives me crazy, so.
Because they're also sending pulsed radiation at you. And I know this because I have a meter. And I can tell what's happening in my environment. So, I don't like to scare people. But if we don't understand what's happening, our children do not stand a chance, okay, if we don't get on this issue. And, there's doctors today, like Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, who won't even work with people. People come to him with their autistic children, with children who are very damaged. If they're not willing to make changes with their wireless usage, he won't work with them because he knows that this is the key to their healing. And if they don't do this, there will be no healing.
Yeah.
One of the things that people can do immediately is to turn everything off at night while you sleep.
I'm doing that now. I put my phone on airplane mode.
That's not good enough.
Just turn it off?
You have to turn it off because it will still pulse in airplane mode. Not only should you turn it off, but you should wrap it in wireless and shielding, like I have around me. You should wrap it because that thing still, you can't, it's not like a 3G flip phone that you can just take the battery out. You see, those things are still going, even if you turn the darn thing off. All right, the apps are still working in the background. But you have to, at the very least, turn them off. Unplug cordless phones, smart devices of all kinds. The reason for this is your body will try to repair the radiation damage when you sleep. If you're being exposed while you sleep, it cannot repair. And you're going to go down at some point.
Okay.
And that's really, really critical. For those who are feeling that they need a cell phone, it would be very useful to get rid of the iPhone and get yourself a 3G flip phone so that you're not being pulsed all day. Or at the very least, if you're going to stick to the addiction to the iPhone, keep it in airplane mode when you're not using it. There's things you can do to use the iPhone as a regular cell phone, which is to turn the Wi-Fi off, turn the Bluetooth off, and your data usage. Those three things are in your settings, and you can turn them off, and you can still get calls, you can still make calls, you can still get texts and send texts, but you're not going to be on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and having, turn all the apps off that you're not using. See, they've really hooked people. It's like this claw that has just wrapped itself into our nervous system. It's sick.
I'm trying to get away from that, but I need my data to work. That's the thing that's messed up with me because the current job that I have now, I have to have the data to work with it, but I'm taking steps, I'm realizing like I'm turning stuff off now. I don't use Bluetooth. That's one thing I've always been wary of Bluetooth anyway. So I don't have any.
Turn it off in your phone. Go into the settings and turn it off.
Oh yeah, it's off and I don't use it. I don't have any Bluetooth devices.
What about your car?
No.
No?
I have an aux cord.
Yeah, because a lot of these cars have massive radiation too. The new cars after 2005 and 6, they've got us, man. It's like, but we can take steps. And certainly what I had to do was to very rapidly learn how to wire my computer, get off the Wi-Fi, which is very easy to do, especially if you're getting your internet service through a cable company.
Okay.
If you have a cable modem and a Wi-Fi router in your house, your cable modem has an Ethernet port. Okay, all you got to do is get an Ethernet cable, plug that into the modem, the cable modem, and the other end into your computer. And if you have an Apple and it doesn't have an Ethernet port, you get an adapter. An adapter is a device that has a USB on one end and an Ethernet port on the other. Okay, and you plug your device in to the cable modem and turn off that damn Wi-Fi router. Right now, the Wi-Fi routers are plugged into the cable modem. What for?
Okay.
Take that out of there. Just get that Ethernet port and get a cord, an Ethernet cable, and plug it into your computer. I mean, they make device. I could go into the corrections that can be made. It's not hard, and it's not that expensive.
How about it's like I'm echoing my too. I don't know why. Okay. How about the torus field? What about that?
Is that one of these magic devices that's supposed to protect you?
It's like a spool, and it sends a supposed protect you from Wi-Fi. Like, what do you think about those?
What I think is that you're still going to get slammed with radiation.
Okay.
Okay.
That's how about the...
Okay, and this is measurable. This is measurable. You can bring in all of these devices into somebody's home who has Wi-Fi on, put the device next to the computer, okay, and turn the meter on before and after, and you'll see that the meter is exactly the same. How much radiation is coming off the device and hitting your body. What these devices might be able to achieve is that you don't feel it, that it might be able to do something to the blood so that your blood is not coagulating as quickly and making you feel sick. So, because people do have experiences where they feel better. And I don't know if that's because the devices are able to do something with the blood, but your body's still getting hit with the radiation. This is measurable with the device. Really, there's two solutions, Verstein, which is to avoid the radiation, which is to do what I've done, or get shielded clothing. That's the other thing I've done. Where I've got a shielded head net that I drive around with, a shielded hat, shielded shirt, shielded pants. When I had to get on a plane, I had gloves, shielded socks, gloves, everything, head to toe, covered in order to manage to get on a plane, because otherwise I would go down. I've become so sensitive that within minutes, I feel physically sick, being exposed.
How about, tell me about the Faraday cage. Oh, go on, you want to say something?
One other thing, I'll tell you about the Faraday cage, it's very important. One other thing is the heart. The heart. Remember I mentioned that you're getting pulsed, right? So all the electrical circuitry of your body is going to go haywire. If you're experiencing arrhythmia, heart palpitations, heart beating very fast, heart beating very slow, all of these things are a result of exposure to the pulsed microwaves, okay? And keep in mind that the 2.4 gigahertz frequency is what they use in microwave ovens. And the reason for that is because it maximizes the absorption of radiation in the mammalian body. It's very effective at cooking things. Okay? This is all in my book.
Okay, I'm gonna put links to your book below. I have a habit of cutting people off, and I'm trying to get better with that. So as you're talking, I'm making notes so I don't jump over you.
It's good. You have questions as I talk, yeah?
Yeah. What about MRI, CAT, and PET scans? Are they the same level of radiation as I know? I know at PET scans they inject you with radiated sugar, which is like
You have to have, I'm sorry, there's some kind of mental illness, some kind of collective psychosis going on to imagine that it's safe for you to drink radioactive fluid and that's going to somehow benefit you in the end. But this is what they're doing. This is what the medical establishment is doing with the PET scan. In addition to exposing the outer part of your body to exorbitant levels of ionizing radiation, which is CAT scan and PET scan, they make you drink radioactive fluid with the PET scan, and people do it. People say, okay, I'll do it. My mother just did it, okay? And then they come back into the house radioactive. So I wouldn't let my mother near me for 3 days. I'm like, are you crazy?
Yeah, I know.
You know, I don't want any part of this. This is madness. So CAT scans are extremely high levels of, and very dangerous levels of ionizing radiation. And what's in our cell phones is called non-ionizing. And I could go into the difference between that, but it's all in my book. And it's very easy to understand if you read my book. I've put it in language that's very simple, and I've exposed all the fraud around it, where we've been told non-ionizing radiation, like that's coming off of ultrasound, MRIs, that's totally safe off of all of our wireless devices. It's not. It's not safe. It's extremely harmful, and it will take you down the longer you're exposed. It's always, every exposure is harmful. And
I opt out of those crazy machines at the airport. I always get to the airport early so I can opt out. And you know what's really upset me one day, Jeanice? I opted out, and there was this guy that was next to me, and he was like, you know, I don't like those machines either, and I wish I would have opted out, but you know, I was kind of afraid of what people would think of me. And I'm just like, that's another thing too in this society that has people like enslaved, is like they're scared that they're gonna look foolish or what people are gonna think of them. I'm like, I'd rather just not be blasted with radiation, you know, like that David D's drawing that says molestation or radiation. I guess I have to get molested, but that's better than the radiation, you know, but I always opt out of those machines.
And they're usually pretty good at the airports. I mean, I always opt out too, and they're usually pretty respectful in terms of explaining everything that they're going to do and why they're doing it this way. And, you know, it's not that bad. I mean, I'd rather do that for sure. They're using terahertz frequencies, which is above, it's like the highest you can go before you hit ionizing. Okay, we're talking trillions of hertz. With the scanners, scanners. So let me show people that I am inside of what's called a Faraday canopy. Can you see that there's shielded material there? If I put it toward the window, there's a shielding around. So I spend a lot of my time inside of this Faraday canopy when I'm in the house, which is a lot, because when I go outside, I'm on Long Island. Long Island is saturated. You cannot get out. When you drive around here, the meter is up here, always in the orange or the red, depending on where you are. So,
how is so you're talking to me on a computer right now.
Yeah.
Is the computer surrounded in something, or the Faraday cage is like blocking off any radiation that it could be putting out?
The computer's wired.
Okay,
so I don't have wireless on. I have a wire running at the bottom of the canopy that comes through and plugs into my computer. So there's no there's very little EMF coming off the computer, what they call EMF. Electromagnetic frequency should be called electromagnetic radiation. But there's nothing really coming off the computer. And I bring it in here into the canopy, and the canopy protects me from what's outside of the canopy. What's outside of the canopy varies depending on what's going on with the neighbors, what's going
Yeah.
on with anybody walking by using a cell phone, anybody driving by with their Bluetooth devices on, like that.
What about tin?
About what?
Tin. I've heard tin, not aluminum, but tin can
Oh,
also block.
aluminum
Tin, no,
foil.
not aluminum, but tin.
I think aluminum foil can block the frequencies.
Oh,
It's a pretty effective. If you get heavy duty aluminum foil, it's very helpful. I think any metal like tin is going to make you more conductive. This is what the chemtrails are about. So that we're inhaling metals and we become like magnets to the
okay.
frequencies and the radiation. And the same would go for tin, or like this shielding has silver. It's
Okay.
got silver. So what happens is the silver attracts the frequencies and it bounces off the silver instead of coming inside. It just bounces off. So the metals make us more conductive. I don't know about using tin, but I do know aluminum foil can reduce the frequencies.
Okay.
Depending on how you set it up,
Okay. And do you think, so, I mean, I would like to talk to you longer. Do you have time to stick around more? Or do you have
Yeah,
to go?
yeah.
Okay. What else? I'm like writing questions. Could we talk about the Wuhan incident and the whole China and the 5G and your theories on it?
Okay, what I'm seeing, first of all, my information is based on my research around viruses and the fraud that exists around viruses. And my research, I started looking at this a few years ago with the HIV, with AIDS, right? And they were claiming AIDS was caused by the HIV virus. And I had read many years ago that, like Dr. Peter Duesberg, for example, said the HIV virus, it doesn't exist. Okay, and a lot of people with AIDS don't test positive for an HIV virus. And there's a lot of fraud going on about viruses, okay,
Yeah.
so-called viruses being at the root of all our problems. And this fraud stems from their desire to get us to believe in their vaccines. You see, the
Yeah.
vaccines are based on a viral threat. So, right?
Wait, I just want to like interject for 1 second. For those of you guys that want to know more about this, you can look up interviews on Peter Duesberg, who was he actually was was he a virologist or cellular molecular? He's
I don't know exactly. Very
okay,
well
but
credentialed
okay,
scientist.
yeah. But he was he wrote a book called Inventing the AIDS Virus, and there are two good movies that you guys could see too to kind of get more info on what we're talking about. Called House of Numbers and The Empire's New Virus, right? Is there anything else you want to add just to kind of, I'll put those in the links, you guys. Let me make
Just to
a,
say
make
that
a note.
there's so much information right now available. I just ordered another book about viruses, but that are saying that basically viruses are a normal part of the immune system. Our body produces this genetic material in order to try to heal itself.
Yeah.
So if you look at Joe Embriano's stuff, for example, Joe will say that, viruses are like the cleanup crew. If somebody collapses from a heart attack and the EMF people, the emergency people show up, you don't blame the emergency people for what happened to that person.
Yeah.
That's what's happening with the viruses. It's like they are here to help us, the viruses, in other words, to help us get well. And we're blaming them because they show up at the scene of the illness. Right.
Yeah, it stems also it's all centered around terrain theory and cellular theory and the difference, germ theory. I mean right. Yeah.
Right.
I've talked to my listeners a little bit about that, but as the year goes by, I want to have more shows on that because I really want to start promoting like Basham's work and get people to understand how
Good.
they can take control of their own health and not, because like this whole belief or this whole like think that the virus is the sole cause, and it leaves us powerless. Like we can't do anything to fix ourselves, right? We have to be dependent on these vaccines and all of
Yes,
these
yes.
medications and stuff, where if we understood how our immune system works, then we don't have to be dependent on that. We don't have to go into debt spending, for all this medication or surgeries and stuff that we don't even need,
Yeah, so the basis of the virus lies is in order to get us to acquiesce to the vaccines. That's basically it in a nutshell. So, and I had a friend, when I wrote my birth trauma book, Sophia Smallstorm, said, "You believe in this virus nonsense." She really scolded me, and nobody's going to take you seriously until you start looking at this virus issue. So I started to look at it a little bit then in 2014 when she scolded me. And then I came back to it now with the coronavirus thing, because I could see, number one, Wuhan, China is a place where they rolled out 5G. I could also see that what people were experiencing as symptoms of this alleged virus were the exact same symptoms associated with microwave illness, which I myself had collapsed from. So I recognized that I think what they're doing is they're blaming people's illnesses on a virus, when in fact it's the radiation exposure that's causing the collapses and causing the variety of symptoms that are being associated with a virus.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I want to interject again. When my research too, with a lot of the diseases and stuff, and I know there are people that get all butthurt about this, but it seems like it's like this globalist modus operandi to have some kind of environmental toxin and then blame it on a virus, whether it's Zika and the pesticides and the genetically modified mosquitoes,
exactly.
or it's polio and Paris green and DDT. Or, because even industry, loves that, because it becomes force majeure, an act of God. You can't sue a virus, but you can sue an industry. You can sue people. They can lose their money. And, and then on top of that, they could promote vaccines and other drugs and crash the economy like they're probably trying to do right now to stop Trump. And, you know what I mean? There's so many agendas that can come out of this.
Oh, yeah. It's diabolical brilliance behind it. But it's also very easy to debunk. If you go to my Radiation Dangers website, radiationdangers.com, there's an article titled, "Is the Coronavirus Actually Microwave Illness?" And I've got a lot of very important information in that article to show the fraud of this virus, and to show that, and to explain that this really is microwave illness. And let me say something else. How much I'm going to share my screen with you here, okay, for just a second. And we may lose a connection briefly, but it'll come back, because this takes a lot of computer energy for me to do this. So bear with me as I go to get this pic. Okay, I want to enlarge this.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry that you can't see the bottom or the top, so I can't enlarge it. Shoot. Basically, what this thing says is, corona is the field around high voltage electricity. They call this a corona field that occurs around high voltage devices. Okay, it is can you hear me, Christine, or did I lose?
Hold on one second. My timer went off. Let me just turn it off. Unless you want to just keep reading, I can just come back. If you want to, hold on one second. Sorry, Jeanice.
That's okay.
All right, I don't know what happened. Go on. Go on.
What I'm saying is they have something that they call the corona field, which they know exists around high voltage devices, which are everywhere right now, and that people become sick when they're around this corona field. And they've known this for decades. They've named it the corona field. Now, corona radiation kills most high voltage electricians by the time they're 55. All right? Corona severely damages the reproductive cells in the liver, not just in the liver. Corona causes sterility, miscarriages, and infertility. Sound familiar? Corona is an EMF field that is generated close to high voltage power transmission. Now they have labeled these symptoms to be a viral attack called coronavirus. But it's not a virus. It's an electrically induced illness. Let me stop the share.
Yeah, wow.
And you will see this, in my article called "Is the Coronavirus Actually Microwave Illness?" You will see tremendous evidence of the scam that is being pulled off right now as people begin to go down as a result of radiation exposure, and they are blaming it on a virus. And I'm telling you that there's people at the top of the EMF activist field, like Josh Del Sol, that are promoting the lie that this is a virus and that there is no connection to radiation. And that really troubles me, because these are people who are supposed to know. So either they're bought,
or threatened, or
they're stupid, or they're deliberately, or they're willfully ignorant. And either way, it's a problem.
What else was I going to ask you? Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? Let me
Leaving
see.
everybody speechless, because if you recognize the level of mind control that's going on, not only do they want to force vaccinate people, but they want to, put us all into these quarantine camps.
Yeah.
Or to lock us in our
Quarantine is in martial law.
Yes.
I just did a video talking about how this coronavirus scare, this hoax that they're promoting is a way to quarantine people. Yeah. And there were some people that got mad at me. They're like, "Oh, I think you jumped the gun." I was like, "Can you just use your brain today? That'd be nice."
Brain. I mean, look at people like Mike Adams. He put out an article yesterday calling for medical martial law.
Oh, what?
Yes, I'm not kidding. He's screaming about this alleged virus and demanding that medical martial law be put into effect immediately, that all flights, be canceled. I mean, he's gone so far into the controlled opposition agenda that I don't think he's going to be able to come back from this, because people can clearly see what his game is now. At least I can. Like, you got to be kidding, brother.
I'll have to look it up. You would think him of all people would see that, would see that this is the perfect opportunity to do this. I got into it, one of my jobs, I work with the hospital, and I got into it with one of the nurses the other day, and he was livid, and he was just like, what did he say? Oh, I go in and they have this table set out, in the lobby to screen people for coronavirus. And he's like, "Oh, you don't have coronavirus, do you?" I was like, no. And then I was like, "Yeah, those paper masks don't work, by the way." And he got mad. And then I come back and I was like, I just had, an honest question. I was like, "How are you screening people for this virus?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, well, if you have like a cough or fever and you've been to one of those places that have it." I'm like, "That's it?" Yeah. I was like, can't that be just like the flu?" Yeah. And then he was like, "Let's talk outside. Let's talk outside." So he takes me outside like I'm a teenager, and to try to talk to me about it. And then, because I'm not taking their coronavirus fear porn seriously. And he was just like, "You can die in a car accident," or I was like, "Yeah, but you know what? With medical errors being the third leading cause of death, I'd probably want to take my chances with the coronavirus." he was pissed. You know what I mean?
When did this happen, Darcy?
It was at one of the hospitals that I work with.
Okay. Wow.
So I was just like, I can't. And he got mad and he wants to know like who did I work for? And I'm just like, you're gonna get me in trouble because I don't like agree with your like ignorance. Are you like offended by my facts? I can't. You know, it's just getting ridiculous. I'm more afraid of like how people are reacting than I am of dying of the virus, because
Absolutely. And that's the main problem, is people are so far gone. They're brain damaged and they're being, mind controlled through these frequencies that they can't see how moronic it is to, imagine that somebody's got a deadly virus if they've got a cough or a fever.
Yeah, and people are like freaking. I mean, I don't know. Like I've gone some places and there are other people like me that think it's being blown way out of proportion. I don't really know how to determine it, because I think I have a circle of friends who are pretty aware of what's going on, and I have had some people out even that aren't. Even my mom, I wouldn't say that my mom is woke, or aware, like akin to all this knowledge, but even she's just like, this is like, what's going on? It's getting ridiculous,
Good for her.
Yeah, but my mom has a lot of, she's not like, she doesn't know this information that we know, but she still has her common sense and her wits about her. So she doesn't watch, I mean, she watches like her programs and stuff, her entertainment, but she doesn't watch the news a lot. She does other stuff, So I think that's part of it too. A lot of people that like watch the news. On the meanwhile, my uncle's like, oh my God, sending me texts, protect yourself from the virus. But he's the type of person that lines up every year, gets his flu shot, and he's always sick.
Yeah.
He's always sick and has heart problems now.
That's what they want. They want people just like that.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I have my days where I'm optimistic and I have my days where I'm pessimistic. I feel like though I'm at a point where I know so much now that I have to at least let people know. So we at least have a chance, That's kind of like where I am.
Do. That's all we can do, Verstein. I do think it's, we're at a turning point for sure this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which way people choose to go.
One thing, I don't know, might be optimistic. I'm an Aries, but maybe I'm too optimistic all the time. I try to try to find the positive. They've had a conference to, like, the tech giants have met with each other to figure out how to stop misinformation about the coronavirus. So if they're meeting together,
Yes.
So I think that, we are having an effect if they're trying to stop it, because, we're going to throw a wrench in their stuff. But they're doing things like they just canceled South by Southwest. Yeah. But it could go either way. I'm sorry. Do you know what South by Southwest is?
No.
It's a huge music and tech festival and film festival that happens every year in Austin. And people come from all over the world. So it's a huge, like, international festival that they just canceled because of the coronavirus fears. Now, either there are going to be some people that are like, see, it's serious, they canceled South by Southwest, or they're going to be people saying like, why are they canceling South by Southwest? Because this is ridiculous. It's not even like, I don't know how it's going to go.
It's all a charade, and they're very good at these charades. It's what we call a false flag. And usually, prior to a false flag, they have a simulation, which they did. They had a simulation coronavirus pandemic just like 2 months before the alleged outbreak happened. Bill Gates funded this, partially funded this simulation.
Oh, big surprise.
It's the truth.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, I believe you, but I'm just like, because he was saying like a few months ago, I have a feeling that we're going to see a pandemic like we've never seen before. Oh, really?
Oh,
For
yes.
real?
What? Very good, Bill. You are just such a prophet.
Yeah. You're so observant. You're such a psychic. How did you know?
It's all part of their game. It's all part of their plan, and people can decide if they do want to go along with it or not. I do encourage people, I do have to go. I encourage people to please go to my Radiation Dangers website, radiationdangers.com. Read the article on is coronavirus actually microwave illness? Get educated. Don't become afraid of this virus. Be more afraid of what the deep state is planning to do as a result of this extremely elaborate hoax. That's what should concern us. The so-called cures are going to be much more dangerous.
Yeah, right.
So that's what we need to be concerned about.
Okay, Jeanice. Well, I'm so glad we haven't seen each other for a while, and give me your links so I can put them in and I'll put a link. I'm making notes of some of the stuff we talked about too, and I'll put that in the links.
My website, I have 2 websites, birthofanewearth.com. Apparently people are getting a warning signal now when they go to birthofanewearth.com.
That means that it's like, yeah.
That's where you could learn about my book, The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound, which goes deep into the topic of radiation and wireless devices. So it's also on Amazon, The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound. My birth trauma book is on Amazon. My other website is radiationdangers.com.
With the Z, right?
Yeah, and I am not on any social media sites, so you can't find me there.
Yeah, because you're hardcore.
I tell the truth, and they're terrified of the truth. These cockroaches hide every time you shine a light on them.
Yeah.
But we'll continue to shine the light because it needs to be seen.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for all your work and your research, Jeanice. And thank you. All right.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this, and God bless everybody. We'll talk
peace and love, you guys. Bye-bye.